So back in April 2020, Apple released the iPhone SE 2 or the iPhone SE 2020, whatever you want to call it. And it was a great budget option. Apple packed in a lot of great features for a relatively low price tag. But now that we're in 2021, is it worth buying the iPhone SE 2 today? Hey, Jonathan here, and this is Retether Tech, and I've been using the iPhone SE for about a week or so, and these are my thoughts and opinions about the iPhone SE and if it's still worth buying today. So let's start off with the positive things about the iPhone SE. Let's start off with price, because this is the cheapest iPhone you can buy currently. It starts at only $399, but for that price tag, it packs in a punch. And that punch comes from the processor. It has Apple's A13 Bionic chip inside, and even though it's not the latest chipset that Apple offers or puts inside their iPhones, it's still a pretty good processor. Day-to-day use is just a breeze. Everything you do with this phone just feels fast and quick. Gaming on this phone is perfect. Apps open up quickly. And really, when you use this phone, you're not gonna feel like it's struggling at all. It just gets things done quickly. It's what you would expect from an iPhone. When it comes to the camera, this phone has a single 12 megapixel wide camera sensor. And it's not gonna have the flexibility that other smartphones have, which have more or multiple camera sensors on it. But because it does have the A13 Bionic chip inside, it's able to get really nice pictures. It does a pretty good job with dynamic range. There's plenty of detail in the pictures. And even in low light situations, it does a really good job trying to get as much detail as possible. Video recording is also what you would expect from an iPhone. It's great. It can record up to 4K 60 frames per second, which is really nice. And honestly, this is probably the best single camera sensor system on any smartphone. It's right up there with the Pixel 4a. So those are the strengths of the iPhone SE. Great camera, great processor. It runs the latest version of iOS 14. But now let's talk about the negatives of the iPhone SE. And let's start off with the design, because honestly, I'm just not a huge fan of this design. It pretty much has the exact design of the iPhone 8, and I was never a huge fan of that design. It has curved sides, large bezels, and because of those bezels, you only get a 4.7-inch display, which in today's day and age is tiny. Now, the one good thing about having these bezels is that you have space for Touch ID. And in fact, this is the only iPhone that Apple sells currently that has Touch ID. There's no Face ID in this phone, it's only Touch ID. And it works great, just like you remember. It's quick, easy, and reliable. So if you're a fan of Touch ID, that might be a plus for you. And even though it does have a low starting price, it is made with premium materials, glass and metal. It just has a really dated design, in my opinion. And going back to the display isn't bad, it's unremarkable, if that makes sense. It's a 1334 by 750 LCD display, and I would say it's okay. It isn't the worst display I've used, but it isn't the best by far. It's probably better than most displays at that pixel resolution. In fact, it's probably better than other displays with higher pixel resolution. So it isn't horrible, but it isn't gonna amaze you either. But probably the worst thing about the iPhone SE, and it's probably the one thing that you have to keep in mind if you're planning on buying the iPhone SE: battery life. This phone has a 1,821 milliamp hour battery. And I know Apple does a great job with their battery consumption, but software and processor isn't enough to make up for this small battery. Battery life just isn't good at all. I was never able to get through a full day with this smartphone. I'm getting about 3.5 to 4 hours of screen on time, which isn't very good. And that might not be a huge deal for you. You might have a charger nearby at all times, and for the most part, everyone does have a charger nearby. But this isn't the type of smartphone that you wake up with a full charge and you just don't worry about charging it for the rest of the day. No, you have to worry about charging this phone for that day. So just keep that in mind. If you wanted a smartphone that just got you through a full day, even into the second day, no problem, this isn't the smartphone for you. So the question is the iPhone SE worth going for in 2021? Well, it has a lot of good things going for it. Like I mentioned, great camera, great processor, iOS 14, but there's even small features that you wouldn't expect in a budget smartphone, like wireless charging, IP67 water resistance. Apple included those features as well, so you do get a lot for a relatively low price tag. But the problem is, there's a lot lot of options out there. Even when it comes to Apple products, let's say that you only want to buy an Apple iPhone and you want the cheapest or you want the best value Apple iPhone. There's other iPhones that Apple sells that I can argue are a better value. For example, the iPhone XR. It's $100 more. It has Apple's A12 Bionic instead of the A13 Bionic that's inside the iPhone SE. And even though that chip is a year older, it should still perform great. You shouldn't have any issues when it comes to performance. And you're gonna get a more modern design, slimmer bezels, a larger display, and the camera system is pretty much the same. It has the same camera sensor, just an older processor. That's it. And there's even the iPhone 11, which I feel is a really good value. It's $200 more. It has the same processor the iPhone SE has. It has an extra camera sensor, ultra wide camera sensor, so you have more flexibility. It has the same modern design that the iPhone XR has, larger display. It's just an all-around better phone, and it costs $200 more. Oh, and by the way, the battery life on the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11 are going to be much better than the iPhone SE because they just have a bigger battery inside. When it comes down to it, Apple just has a lot of cheap options. You're going to pay a little bit more, but you're going to get an all-around better phone than the iPhone SE. Now, with that in mind, if you did want just the cheapest iPhone you can buy, you just wanted to save as much money and still be in the Apple ecosystem and have a new phone, the iPhone SE is a really good value still. Even though the outside of the phone doesn't really hold up to today's smartphones, the internals are right up there. They probably perform better than most Android phones. So really, it's gonna be up to you and your budget, but hopefully this gives you a better idea of what to expect with the iPhone SE. If it did, please give this video a thumbs up. Another good option that you might be interested in is the iPhone 12 mini. It's the cheapest of the iPhone 12 lineup. And if you want to check out my review on that phone, I'm going to go ahead and leave the link in the description below. If you want to see more videos just like this one, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell icon so you don't miss any of my new videos. Thanks for watching.